Yes, I can put you right through. Sales department, this is Nate. Human resources, technical support. Hold, please.
You work hard to grow your business.
Yes. I can totally do that for you.
Our new online business planning tools will help your business thrive. Wells Fargo. Together we'll go far.
Okay.
Can't show where your computer ends and the wall starts, my friend.
It's all camouflage. It's tech camouflage here. And it's also Friday here, and we do have a power panel. We've got a lot of big news.
Get a blue
stories.
Get a blue towel to hang behind.
By the way,
nothing all day long. We cannot get a piece of fabric.
What I'm wearing, you should put me there.
Oh shit!
I'll just totally evaporate. We'll switch at the break.
We'll work on it. Yeah, impossible. So welcome to the show, guys. We're gonna.
Background looks nice though. I really do like it.
Why don't we talk about the background actually? And then after the background, then we'll talk about the stories. We do have a lot of stories today. We have very big news that we weren't able to get to earlier in the week, including the massive multi-billion-dollar fines against some of the largest banks in the world, but no criminal prosecutions. We're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about a few butthurt Republicans who don't like the way that the GOP debates rules are being set up. Let's see. We have a pretty ridiculous defense of renewing the Patriot Act that is immediately undercut by the same department of the person who put out the statement. And we have Fox News trying to explain why Carly Fiorina can't possibly be bad for women. All that coming up in this hour. Anything we need to get to before we get to the news?
Yeah, I just want to say that I really appreciate great backgrounds.
You are on
It
the
doesn't look silly at all. It looks great.
I think it looks better than the concrete replacement.
Unbelievable.
It has a nice texture. It looks like it would be soft to lay on. Perhaps if you need to take a nap, you can lean your head delicately against it.
For months and months, I made fun of Chris Hayes' background because it had too gray in it. It was gray and orange. Fantastic for TV.
Jimmy, there's a sophistication to the Young Turks, which maybe you don't understand, where we don't see things in black or white, but we embrace and explore the gray area and complicated stories.
Oh, this is a metaphor. I'm inside of a metaphor.
You're inside of a metaphor.
Well, now I
We
feel
are
like
the extremes. You're the one delving into the heart of the matter. The immense subtleties, the wide gradient of possibilities. Why don't we start talking about some of those political possibilities here in our first story? Fox News has set the rules of the debates for the GOP presidential candidates, and some Republicans are not at all happy about it. First of all, before we get to the butthurt Republicans, we will be telling you the actual way that they're going to be set up. So Fox News announced on Thursday that the debate competitors would be determined by an average of the last 5 national major polls of the GOP race. The top 10 competitors will be allowed to debate, and the field could theoretically expand to 11 if there's a tie for 10th. The network emphasized that candidates who don't make the cut will be provided with airtime on August the 6th, the day before the debate is held. So, 10 people taking part in a presidential debate, that's a lot of people to try to fit in. It means that, in all likelihood, you're not going to be able to find out too much about any one of them. But if you're number 11 or number 12 and you don't make the cut, then that probably hurts you a little bit. And one man who so far is not making that cut in national polls is Rick Santorum, who said, "I'm probably the best person to comment on this. In January of 2012, I was at 4% in the national polls, and I won the Iowa caucuses. I don't know if I was last in the polls, but I was pretty close to last. The idea that a national poll has any relationship to the viability of a candidate, ask Rudy Giuliani that. Ask Phil Gramm that. You can go on down the list of folks who were doing real well in national polls and didn't win a single state and were not a viable candidate." So we've got some more quotes from him, but what do you think about that argument for why these rules are not well set up?
Here's something I really don't often say. I 100% agree with Rick Santorum.
That's true.
He's completely right. Those were not viable candidates. Those were terrible candidates. He was at 4%. He did finish second to Mitt Romney. He did win the Iowa caucus. Like,
in other states,
where you are at a poll in August is not a fair reflection of where you are as a candidate. Also, these guys aren't running nationally then. They are running in a specific state. So looking at national polls when he might be doing well in Iowa and then not being in that debate impacts things. So Fox is having a significant impact. In fact, what Fox is doing by orchestrating this in this manner is sort of encouraging the coalescing around a major candidate, which Fox probably wants. Very early on. That said, I'm not sure Fox is in a conspiratorial mode here. As far as the television production is, you're right. 10 people is a lot. 12 is, but they say they're expected to be. This article continues. They're expected to be 16 people in a debate. 16. So first of all, that lets you do a Sweet 16, and they should definitely do a tournament, right? And in fact,
we can set that up.
Put down your computer for just a second. So it's not no cheating. Don't look at the monitors. Okay, right now, 16 people expected to run. Let's go. Real quick. You can't think about it. We'll start with you, and we'll just keep going until we stop naming it, and those people who we don't name have no chance. Go.
Ben Carson.
Rick Perry.
Jeb Bush.
Marco Rubio.
Oh, you stole mine.
Chris Christie.
Ted Cruz.
Shit. The Jindal.
Lindsey Graham.
Carly Fiorina.
Oh, 9. Rick Santorum?
Oh, that's 10. That's good. I think you're out. You're definitely out. It goes to me. With Dave 10.
I've got one ready.
You do? You totally have one ready? That sucks.
John Kasich.
John Kasich, he probably counts. He's one of the 10. Chris Christie.
I said it.
I'm out. Damn it.
Huckabee.
Oh,
so you win.
John wins.
Okay.
John wins, and we still left four terrible people out.
No,
Yeah, and many of those are not.
I don't know. This article said 16.
No, this article says 16, but there are 20. There are 20.
Theoretically.
It's clear that there are 20. Let me check. 20 candidates will run in the GOP primaries, but when the dust settles, only 20 of them will not be our next president.
And so many of them aren't viable candidates, and also we can't. Like, the media has to pretend that most of the people running actually are president. But we know, that's not going to happen. Many of them don't think they'll be president. They don't even necessarily care. They just want to do it so that they can get back on Fox News, they can get back in the media, they can sell their book, they can get the speaking fees. It's just like a job promotional thing. It's like a collaboration on YouTube. Like, it's not actually about that thing. It's about what it can bring you. And so, should Fox News be obligated to give them the screen time?
Scott Walker, by the way. Big one to leave out.
And
Leeds.
Louis Gohmert, perhaps. And so, but then how do you choose the top 10? Because it's a ridiculous. It would be a farce to have 20 people on the stage. It's already. I mean, the whole thing is a farce.
No, but I mean, so here's how you do it. I mean, I would take everyone who's running, who is, other than fringe candidates. You obviously have to have a point where you're cutting off, but distinguishing Carly Fiorina from Rick Santorum or Carly Fiorina from Ben Carson, that's not a distinction that can be made. Like, they have the same chance. So I would do something fun. I would literally have a tournament. You have a Sweet 16. I would put 4 groups of 4 early on, and you see this 4, and then you see this 4, and then these 4. And then the people who maybe did the best, you move them on.
Like the Young Turks did with the congressional debate they held here, right? So they had 3 series of, I think, 4 people or 5 people.
Yeah, where they could actually debate.
And they could actually talk and debate. Yeah, and you get to hear their positions, even though you might not get to hear them rebutted by someone else. You get to hear their positions on it. So that was I think it's very educational. I think it's worth it.
Yeah. Yeah, and they might worry that if they do like the top 8 and then the bottom 8, then no one's going to watch the bottom 8. But just throw one of the likely to.
You mix
just in the second.
No, you mix the groups.
Exactly,
you do it like the World Cup. You got some
people tune in.
Right, you put the guy. And
it's just like the World Cup. There'll be little to no scoring. The thing is that these debates are really important because we're going to learn so much about how much these GOP guys don't know about things. So that's why you really need to. What are we going to learn? We're not going to learn anything. We all know where they stand on everything. They're all trying to be right, farther to the right than the next guy. They're all trying to be dumber and more ignorant. And we're in the dark ages, right, politically in this country. And if you need look at the GOP's, look at that. That is the dark age. Those are people committed to anti-intellectualism. Those are people committed to anti-science. Rand Paul. That's another one.
That's a good one.
Oh, yeah, we forgot some 2 big ones.
Yeah. So those are people committed to anti-intellectualism, anti-science, we're going to talk later on in the show about how they don't even want us to study our own Earth. So we're in the dark age, and then so now the Democrats are playing the role of moderate Republicans, and so we have no Democrats left. We have no liberals. We have no progressives. We have Bernie Sanders, but everyone knows he's not a viable candidate.
Yeah. You said anti-science, anti-intellectual. I would also say anti-seminal thinking about the future of this country.
Yes. Look, the only thing that we're likely to honestly get out of this that hopefully could help is they're going to be asked some crazy questions. Do you breathe through your mouth? And then they're going to feel obligated to raise their hand, and we're going to get the picture of every one of those candidates raising their hand to some crazy thing, like, do you believe in climate change? Do you think same-sex marriage should be allowed? And they're going to have to prove how crazy they are. That's really the only purpose these serve now.
I would definitely, from a TV point of view, I would definitely, and especially those early debates where there are that many candidates, I would think of some interesting way to do it like that, and then have 3 or 4, mainstream Republicans who disagree with each other on many things, or at least disagree with each other personally, and have them pick winners for me. You can't have people vote. That's crazy for winners, although that's intriguing.
It's intriguing.
But then, Ben Carson would get his people.
Yeah, well, that's why that's what drives John Hannity crazy when Ron Paul would win the straw poll, whatever the voting was on their Fox polls. So who won the debate? It would always be Ron Paul, and of course he would just dismiss it.
Right.
And we already know in advance that if Chris Christie doesn't make the top 10, it's only because his state loves him so much, and they don't want to see him go.
That is. And at a debate, say what you want, I think he would really squash the people against him. Plus, he would out-debate them.
Yes. Okay, let's jump to other important news. Just 2 weeks out from the looming potential repeal of the Patriot Act, the government is sending us extremely mixed signals about how vital it is that we renew this extremely divisive and often criticized law. First, you have Attorney General Loretta Lynch coming out and saying this.
The more we have discussion on this point, the more clarity we can provide to the American people about exactly what we do with that data, what's called metadata. It's information about telephone calls. It's not the content, it's not what's being said, it's not the voices that are there.
Yeah, so she says it's important, obviously. She's going to go on to say what might happen if it were to allowed to expire.
What's your biggest fear? Well, our biggest fear is that we will lose important eyes on people who have made it clear that their mission is to harm American people here and abroad.
Do you think it makes America less safe?
I think that we run the risk of essentially being less safe. I think that we lose important tools. I think that we lose the ability to intercept these communications, which have proven very important in cases that we have built in the past. And I'm very concerned that the American people will be unprotected if this law expires.
Yeah, so proven very important in cases. We're going to come back to that in just a minute.
If the effort we'll lose the ability to keep eyes, as she said, on people who've made it clear that they want to harm America. If people have made it clear that they want to harm America, I'm pretty sure you can get a warrant to track their calls. And listen, you can listen to the whole conversation. Mm-hmm. And I think we're all comfortable with that.
Yeah.
Because you've gotten a warrant. Once you get a warrant, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
This is, so, and of course there wasn't that question. So you're not really talking about people who've made it clear. Because if they've made it clear, No problem. This guy went to his mosque and he's going around saying we got to bring death to America, and he's called these people we know, or he's associated. We got a informant who says that he's saying this. The judge will be like, okay, yeah, watch his calls. You'll get a warrant. This is not that. So she's conflagrating two very different things to make it seem like this is the principal police tool.
Yeah. And I take her point, though. Her point is, sure, liberty and democracy and freedom sounds good on paper. But do you really? If we have freedom and liberty, you're all going to be dead. I'm not trying to scare you. Yeah. I'm not going to scare you to say that if we don't do this thing that's unconstitutional, I'm not going to say that you'll all be dead, but probably.
Yeah. I think the problem is that she has approached the Constitution as a piece of metadata. She hasn't actually read it. She just knows the name of it or something like that. And so, look, she said there, it has proven extremely important in actual cases. She said that. Unfortunately, on the same day, Department of Justice report came out where they admitted that they can't point to any major cases where this bulk collection of data, the divisive Section 215, has actually proven useful at all. Inspector General Michael E. Horowitz said that between 2004 and 2009, the FBI tripled its use of bulk collection under Section 215 of the Patriot Act, which allows government agents to compel businesses to turn over records and documents, and increasingly scooped up records of Americans who had no ties to official terrorism investigations. So we're talking about a number of years there and a lot of bulk collection. The agents we interviewed, he said, did not identify any major case developments that resulted from use of the records obtained in response to Section 215 orders. He said the agents did view the material they gathered as valuable in developing other leads or corroborating information. And that's all well and good, but I imagine that if it was that goddamn valuable in cultivating those other leads, they would then point to it as being useful in those major cases. The fact that they have to go to the second-hand vague language means that they can't make the case, even though they've had more than a decade to do it in.
Yeah, I think we have to. I think that we have to stay focused on the. Of course, I'm sure it's been useful. I'm sure that at one point something they found was useful, right? Like again, here was what else would be useful: putting a government agent on every street corner. Like they're going to see something useful.
Every house,
right? Every house, like getting people to inform on their families, like in Cuba, right? Encouraging that sort of behavior, and in many other places. But yeah, I'm sure it's useful, but it's not something we're comfortable with. So, and what this does make clear, what Horowitz makes clear, the Inspector General, is that you haven't cracked the case. So, yeah, I'll give you useful. I'm sure all law enforcement people would like to have as many tools as that. We'd like to have as many tools as we have here. We'd like to have 8 more cameras here and 2 other control rooms and all these bells and whistles that make a production great. Maybe some paint, different color. All those things would be great, but we don't need all those things to do our job, and they don't need this to do their job, as clear because they have never cracked the case.
Ben, that's some big ideas that's coming from you, and I hear what you're saying, but it's hard to take what you're saying seriously when you're wearing a malt liquor t-shirt.
That is true. That is true.
Works every time. Old English 800. No, that's the 45.
I didn't know what this T-shirt was. I just bought it at Urban Outfitters.
Did you really not know?
12 and 14. Yeah, I like gray T-shirts.
No kidding.
Yeah, I didn't know what it was.
Want to sit in front of the wall?
But it turns out that it's big among some people of color, because that's the only people who have said great T-shirt to me in the whole time I've had it. There's like JR and 2 other black guys.
That's right, yeah. I was also a malt liquor drinker in my youth.
Right, because you're just looking for a return on the dollar.
That's right, bigger alcohol content in malt liquor. People don't know that. I don't know how we got started.
I don't know. Let's go back to the wall. It's the same color as that wall. Anyway, and look, so this is obviously pretty laughable. You have the head of that department coming out and saying she's worried, she's scared about the risk that we would be putting to Americans if we allow this bill to expire. At the same time, this report that they were forced to undergo, that they did, it took years to put this together, they can't point to, over the course of more than a decade, a major case where it actually made a difference.
I got to say, one thing I may well disagree with you guys on, but I still see there's such enormous difference between Democrats and Republicans about some things. Because if John Ashcroft is in this position, she had to basically get asked if it makes us less safe, and she even soft pedaled it. She was like, "Yeah, no, I guess yes, I would say they're safer." John Ashcroft would be like, You're going to die, and your kids are going to die. Democrats are like, no, we'd like it. We really like it, and there's probably some risk. It wouldn't be good.
Yeah.
And at least the Bush Republicans, they were constantly going over the top of it.
Yeah. And he would set the terror alert level to murder.
That's right. Yeah.
See, here's where I would disagree with you a little bit on that, Ben, because seeing that she's supporting the same policy Ashcroft would support.
She is supporting the same policy.
So that's the rhetoric. So the rhetoric is a little different, or she's a little more likable than Ashcroft was, maybe.
Yeah, I think rhetoric is important too. As usual, of course. As usual, though, if the goal here is to protect the policy, right? Let's pretend that we like the policy.
Okay.
Ashcroft does it in an aggressive way that gets it done. She, as always, being a Democrat, not really mealy mouth, not selling it as well. That's right. It's just in this case, that works out nicely for us. Even though in the end, you're right, they're supporting the same policy.
Yeah. And look, this policy is very likely, I think, at this point, it seems like from what I've read, to be renewed. And so again, I criticized yesterday on the show that originally when this was passed, we didn't have any actual debate about it. And if they renew it, they're probably going to renew it for years and years to come. And even now, when the one chance we have to actually talk about it, people are not actually talking about it. They're being allowed to just peddle lies as they were 14 years ago.
We're not talking about it because nobody quite understands what it is, because it uses a phrase like metadata. We don't know, and it doesn't really. I got plenty of friends, good basic civil libertarians who are, and reasonable people say, also, we still have an instinctive trust of the government. Still. It's why it's so easy to make Cy Hirsch seem like a crazy person. And we say crank. And the thing of it is about Cy Hirsch, he said a lot of things that are right. His reporting is better than almost everybody else. He's also a crank. Those things are also true, or is cranky, to put it that way. But we still instinctively trust the government, trust the police, trust people in authority. So that's why most, as I was saying, there are plenty of good people who are like, I don't care if they collect my phone records. Like they're not looking at the calls. They're not, and I think that's largely true. We don't have the personnel to do that. They're not listening on your phone calls.
But what's more important that what we've learned, and some of us have forgotten, and we need to be reminded of it, that metadata actually sometimes tells you more about a person than actually listening to their conversations. And it's complicated to explain that, but I've had it explained to me. I've read about it. Other people who have looked into this have made that case that collecting metadata can lots of times tell you more things about an individual and their habits than actually listening to their conversations. That sounds crazy, right?
No, it doesn't sound crazy, especially since very few of these conversations are like, so we're good to go for the terrorist attack on the 14th. Noon? I don't think I can make noon, and I don't like to blow shit up on an empty stomach, so shall we say 1:30? Right, that's probably not happening in the calls, but the series of calls and the connections, yes, might be able to make you realize the existence of a network. So I agree with you. I think that we need to debate it. I think we have the Patriot Act is largely it is what every libertarian, what every Republican should be more outraged about than anything that they pretend to be outraged about. So and every Democrat who believes in civil liberties. Because it is complicated. Because we still don't think that the government would not have our best interests at heart. And in this case, I think that there are clearly some people in law enforcement who do have our best interests at heart. And the fact is, if we knew always that the people running this would be, if there was some way to deter, if it was robotic, and the robots were trained never to abuse it, some of your concerns would be, you just know it's going to get abused, right? You know instinctively it's going to get abused because that's always what happens.
Because that's what people do when they have information, secret information about other people's lives.
Yeah, that's right. And the chances of us having people collecting this data who have the integrity of, say, I don't know, Chelsea Manning or an Edward Snowden are very rare, right? You only come across that kind of character once in a while.
Yeah. And the final point I want to make is it seems so weird to me. I mean, they've had this now for so many years. And they can't point to one success. Now, they say we have to have it because of all the help that it's provided, but they can't point to any help. So is that really the reason that they want it, or do they want it for some other reason? That's what it just. I think they low-level suspicion.
I think it's basic government. They don't ever want to give up access. They don't ever want to give up power that they already have, and You have
It's
to
like
fight.
it's like when you have a full closet. You know you don't wear those shirts, but you don't.
I might need them someday. It might snow again.
Also, based on what you said, because it might tell. Of course, it's useful. Of course, it's useful in an investigation. It's handy, right?
Yeah.
But we don't have a lot of things that are handy. Like there are a lot of things that are, it's those old school space heaters were handy. They heated things up, but there was a 40% chance you were going to burn your house down, right? So at some point, you give them up. So I don't know. I don't doubt. I don't think they're secretly doing something else with it. I think they want to keep it for criminal investigations.
Yeah.
And that it has probably been useful a couple of times, but they can't. It's certainly cases that I'm sure could have been cracked in other ways.
I'll tell you what,
By the way, were cracked in other ways. Otherwise, we have no doubt that they would. They would tell us. Dick Cheney, by the way, says all these things have been successful.
Yes, they've all kept us safe from terrorism. It's damn you, Ben! I forgot what I was going to say.
You didn't get
Michigan.
You didn't get the anti-Semitic.
Oh, I remember.
I got that.
I remember. I did not because I was trying to remember what I was going to say. But it's worse than we think, right? When you say I don't think they're collecting them for nefarious reasons, they are. In fact, and I talked about it on the Jimmy Dore show last year. It has been reported that the NSA officials would take data that they got of a drug deal that's going to be happening, right? And they got it illegally. They can't use it. So they send it to the DEA. The DEA takes that. They send it to local law enforcement with the provision that you have to never tell anybody where you got this information from. And now you can go bust these guys on this drug deal with information that was garnered unconstitutionally, and we're all lying about it. So that is literally happening. That happened. That was reported. That was reported on MSNBC. It was reported on my show. It was reported, I think, maybe even Vox reported it. It came from someone else's initial reporting, and I don't think it ever made it on the Brian Williams show. I don't think it ever made it onto George Snuffleupagus' show, but it certainly made it onto some news stations, and that really did happen. That's probably still happening. So yes, they are collecting that data. They are using it illegally. So they're willing to completely, massively violate the Constitution, but we don't think that they would then violate anything else. Of course they would. And that's why they're in government, because they like power.
Right. But that said, they're not in government because they like power. I mean, there's a whole. I know people in government, they can get it because they like power.
Why?
They thought it was a noble job, and or a good job, or like a job, right? Or and most people in government do not feel real power.
I don't think the Attorney General enjoys power, but go ahead.
But that case, which is you're correct, and that was widely reported, and that happened using the information, right?
So that we know, that's what we know.
No one is going to get moved on this by the fact that they illegally stopped the drug dealer.
That's right, and they know that, and that's why they went ahead and did that.
Yeah. So let's focus on the other side, the side where it's unconstitutional. And so we should focus on the side. Okay, so we do have to take our first break, though. When we come back, we are finally going to discuss the penalties that were levied on big banks that are breaking records. They really stuck it to these banks. We'll get back to that in just a few. Continue to tweet us at #TYTLive. We'll respond to those when we come back from this break. See you in a few. everybody. Welcome back to the Friday edition of the Young Turks, our power panel. We've got some hashtag TYT lives you want to read. Ben, you said you had a couple?
Jack McAnally at Jack_McAnally said, yeah, your secretary, not wife, called you. You then called Planned Parenthood and your lawyer. It's okay. It's just metadata.
That's pretty good. I like that.
A lot of people writing in to summarize saying that this is a crazy conversation, as I have inferred, but they've made it much smarter. There's too much data. Of course they're not listening to stuff. They can't. Nor can they sort through it. Nor can they sign anything. And that's why they didn't. No Boston Bomber. No Fort Hood. Like they don't uncover anything. There's literally mountains of data that then I suppose once they have something could go back and be part of a prosecution. But as we're hearing, hasn't been because we don't prosecute anybody.
And I agree. The ability to go through the data, I don't think that they have, because that still requires, at least today, it requires human analysts to do that. But we have heard reports about them setting up these massive server banks to record not the metadata of every call, but literally every call. Again, that doesn't mean that they're listening to every call in real time, but it does mean that theoretically you could go back if necessary to listen to it. Let's see. I liked Cabbage's tweet. We can hunt terrorists, but 30 minutes getting a warrant is just too hard. I like that. And Mr. Red Penguin was very nice. He said, so sad that 3 guys on an online news show seem to know more about the Constitution and the law than many current politicians. We don't know that much. Don't worry about it. About as much as Louis Gohmert, I think. Any other 2 lives?
No, I mean, there are a lot of good ones.
Well,
there's a lot of good ones, yeah.
People are making the point that, Floricida Lannister says, why does no one ever get that metadata is more sensitive than content, not less? And then people are giving me examples. The fact, what I say to a hooker on the phone might not be as important as that I'm calling a hooker.
Yeah.
So these are all good points.
Yeah.
That was I think Little Big Man said that.
That's a good point.
It's funny saying people's.
Can you, really fast, can you go back to his one shot? Because I actually thought it didn't look that bad. Oh, it's got some color in it.
Oh, look, okay.
I like it.
I got a little something over my shoulder, and then we're back into the abyss. Over here's the abyss, and I got a little color over here.
Yeah.
The Little Big Man said I was describing parallel construction. It's when you get illegal information, you pass it on, then you use that to find other evidence you can use in court. It's called parallel construction. Thank you, Little.
The whole thing sounds illegal to me, but apparently they've found a way to make it work.
Yeah.
Back to the news?
Yes.
Okay, let's jump back into it. Earlier this week, 5 of the biggest banks in the world were hit with literally billions in fines, but not a single individual is going to be facing even a minute in jail. Now, why is that? Well, we're going to talk about it. I'm going to hit you now with a bunch of numbers, and I want you to look at these numbers and think about the financial cost to these banks, and then notice the surprising lack of any interest in finding out who it was that was responsible for the crimes in the first place. So, Attorney General Loretta Lynch announced Wednesday that 4 of the world's largest banks had pled guilty to criminal charges that their traders had conspired to fix the massive and poorly regulated foreign exchange market. Now, you might read that quote and think, well, they said traders. That means humans. But again, not going to be any humans being hurt by these charges. Now, we're going to see some numbers here. These are the banks that have pled guilty and the different fines that have been associated with them. You're seeing some large numbers there by our standards, probably not so large by the standards of banks that make literally tens of billions of dollars in a single year, but it's a little bit of money at the very least. And we're going to go back a little bit. In April, Deutsche Bank agreed to pay a record $2.5 billion in fines and fire several employees. Again, fire, not send to jail, for its role in rigging benchmark interest rates. Fire. And in November, 5 large banks agreed to pay a combined $4.25 billion in penalties to U.S. and British authorities on the same matter. That's on the heels of Bank of America agreeing to pay $16.6 billion for its role in the financial crisis, $2.6 billion by Credit Suisse. Look, I'm going to cut this off. They pay a lot of fines, again, by our standards, again, probably not by their standards. But in all of these cases, have you ever seen crimes that are so huge that you have to pay billions in fines for having committed, where the authorities are so 100% disinterested in identifying a single person responsible for the crimes actually being committed? No, I don't. Is it the bank building that did it? Is it the vault that committed the crime? Perhaps a computer committed the crimes.
So this is, I bet if those employees robbed money from the bank, they would go to jail.
Yes.
But they didn't rob money. So if you go into a bank with a gun and you steal a couple $1,000, you go to jail for about 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
But if you work at a bank and you steal millions and millions of dollars, you might get fired.
Yeah, and then go to a different bank.
So let me just say, and they're continuing to screw over our economy. That's what people forget. It's like this is hurting the economy when they do these things, which is why it's illegal. Almost nothing is illegal anymore in banking, yet they're still finding ways to be criminals, right? Because they're all criminals. And I said this to my brother, who's the vice president of White Castle, about 4 years ago. We're having a conversation. I go, well, this is before all the bankers were criminals. And he just laughed. He laughed that naive laugh of a white-collar executive who's out of touch with reality and doesn't know anything.
Yeah.
Except how to make hamburgers, right? So that's
hamburgers, to be fair.
Yeah, I love them, right?
Yeah.
I love them.
I like any hamburger you get out of a drawer.
But let me say this about the banks, and this might sound indelicate, but if I could fuck my wife half as good as Wall Street has fucked our economy, I wouldn't have to go through her emails.
That's true.
Look, there was progress here. This is an actual first time ever that an big American financial institution has pled guilty to criminal charges. And this is from Slate, Jordan Weissman's piece in Slate. He says, promisingly, Bloomberg reports the Justice Department still considering bringing charges against some of the individuals involved in the foreign exchange scheme. That's what these most recent fines were for, and the criminal plea by the bank. Even if the targets of its investigation turn out to be relatively low-level traders, it would still demonstrate, this is a great line, some determination to treat blatantly criminal activity as blatantly criminal activity. And then he points out, we're talking about a group of conspirators that had the gall to call itself the cartel. But then, moreover, this is the quote, the first time in decades, not first time ever, first time in decades that any American mega bank has pleaded guilty to a criminal charge. So, if there are some low-level traders that are charged, again, that would have some sort of chilling effect. And again, this is a criminal charge. Like now you can say, and your brother can't give you that naive laugh, no, these banks just pled guilty in criminal court. They pled guilty and took fines because you can't literally throw a bank in jail. But they are criminals.
Yeah.
People who did this are criminals.
Well, the beauty is, Ben, that they're $550 million to Chase, $1 billion for Citigroup, Barclay, $500 million. So just massive criminality. But what I like is when they go to charge these guys, what they do is they take 5 cops, they go down to Wall Street, they surround them, they put a chokehold on them. Yeah. Oh, no, that's if you're selling Lucy's. Exactly. I'm sorry, if you're selling Lucy's, 5 cops will surround you on the street, one of them will choke you, and then 4 of them will kneel on you until you're dead. But if that's if you're committing that crime of selling Lucy's, which is at least got to be 50 cents each, right? So these are. He's only a couple $1 billion.
So if you want to be safe and you're selling cigarettes, you should sell millions of cigarettes. But then you'll be protected.
Look, I get your point, but it's not fair because there's tax revenue involved in the cigarettes that then we're not collecting, and as opposed to the banks, when they failed, they had to be bailed out by taxpayers.
That's right.
But the banks might have cost us slightly more money than the tax revenue loss from the Lucy.
Maybe.
I'm not sure. I'll have to check.
But the banks then, what they do is they then pledge money to the police defense fund or whatever it is, like they did during Occupy Wall Street. And
they set up the headquarters where they would collaborate with them.
And did they?
Yeah, they had the joint media, police, and the banks. They had that one kidding. What did they call it? They had a very
really
1980
like a command central
kind of a command center sort of thing, the brain or whatever.
Yeah, so then what they do is they take money, they take some money, a bunch of money that they got illegally from doing criminal activity, they give it to the police who are supposed to enforce the laws, but they don't. What the police do is they turn their back on the Constitution in favor of the money they just got, and then they go crack the heads of peaceful protesters.
Yeah.
That's what happens, right? That's how America's supposed to work, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I hope...
So anytime I follow the rules, anytime I pay my taxes, anytime I'm driving the speed limit, I feel like a sucker. I feel like a sucker because the people who are not only running this country, but running our government, but running the entire economy of the world are all criminally corrupt. Not a little bit. The The LIBOR scandal proved us that bankers, international bankers, are rigging the price of everything. Because when they rig the interest rates, the interest rates affect everything. They said over $500 trillion in economic activity. So what that means is that bankers are now rigging the economy and rigging the price of everything, and it's in their favor. So they're all criminals. They're all criminals. They're all corrupt. They're too big to fail. They're too big to jail. And you won't hear Hillary Clinton say we need to break up the big banks because she's one of them. She helped them become bigger. And that's what's wrong. And when we have Jeb Bush against Hillary Clinton, everyone's going to know the system is rotten. And then we're going to have more protests. And then the banks are going to give more money to the cops to go crack the heads of peaceful protesters. And we're going to have the same goddamn argument over again with bootlickers defending the criminal cops who are defending the criminal bankers.
That might qualify as a good rant.
Yeah.
It was good.
Jimmy, if you ever call them on it to their face, they'll chuckle a little bit.
Yes, they will. I have a friend who works at the Jamie Dimon's bank. Chase Manhattan. Is that Chase? Is that his bank? Chase. And so he, every once in a while, would send me an email. He stopped sending me emails after I sent him one back. Just basically saying, do you guys ever stop laughing over in the hallways? Do you ever stop giggling? Do you ever stop elbowing each other with that snicker like, wow, we're fucking everyone over? And he never sent me, we don't talk anymore.
Yeah.
Old college friend.
Well to it, apparently.
Old college friend.
Yeah.
And then half of my other college, go ahead. I don't want to bring it up.
Okay, let's jump to some other news because the hour is quickly fading away.
By the way, that was good stuff, though, Jerry.
Yeah. Oh, well, I appreciate it.
I think it'll be well liked on GYT Live.
Just speaking from my heart.
Yeah.
Sucker.
Okay, let's jump to the next story, though. Planned Parenthood Action Fund ran an online poll where they asked which GOP presidential candidate is the worst for women's health, and they had the gall to put Carly Fiorina on the list that you could choose and vote for. And it turns out that Carly Fiorina is actually a woman herself. Fox is having none of that. Let's watch.
Activists at Planned Parenthood just conducted a poll asking which presidential contender poses, quote, the worst threat to women in 2016. No surprise, the only options for worst threat were Republican candidates, including, of course, Carly Fiorina. Now, how is a female candidate a threat to women?
How could it be possible? How could she possibly do anything that hurts women? Now, let's not actually think about that in a critical sense. Let's defend her. Not us, them. What do you think?
Defend who?
They're going to defend Carly Fiorina. That was the whole point of having that panel together that they did, was to say that, of course, because she is a Republican, despite her being a female, no policy that she could put forth, even if it is objectively bad for women's interests, can be identified as such. It's just cover for them to have her as a candidate.
She finished second on Survivor. That's how she got a job in the news.
Oh, you're talking about
Carly
Fiorina. I was like, I don't watch. I got to start watching Survivor. I would love to see her.
She'd probably win.
I want to see her crack a coconut.
But yeah, and of course, look, we can go down the list of reasons that Carly Fiorina would be objectively bad. She wants to repeal the Affordable Care Act, which is good. It provides access to both specifically reproductive health coverage for women, but also general health coverage for women. She supports a ban on abortion after 20 weeks. She would repeal Roe v. Wade, thinking somehow that a president can repeal Roe v. Wade if they want to. That's not actually how it works. But we don't require presidential candidates to know anything about the actual distribution of powers in our government to be able to run. She opposes policies to address the gender pay gap. She does not believe that the Paycheck Fairness Act is necessary. Does not want to raise the minimum wage, which would disproportionately affect women. All of those things, but you can't point those out because she is a woman. That is why Republicans field female candidates. It's why they field minority candidates. It's so that they can continue to beat down those groups while having a modicum of coverage while doing it.
What I like about Elizabeth Hasselbeck is nothing. But what I like is like the way she ends those points, like that she nailed it. You know, but how could she be hurtful to women when she's a woman?
I don't understand. How could a woman be? That doesn't make. How could a man be hurtful to men?
How could a man be hurtful to men? That's a great point.
There's no way. They say that George Bush got a lot of guys killed, but he's a man. That doesn't. So you better go double check your facts because I'm pretty sure he'd be standing up. I like that she said that, of course, all the people that they said are going to be bad for women are Republicans. Hey, they also said all the candidates that are bad for Jews are Nazis. Yeah, that's why. Yes. Can you believe that all the people that they said are bad for women are the people who are advocating bad policies for women? What the fuck is that about?
Yeah, she really thinks that she thinks I got this. I found out the bias of Planned Parenthood.
Yeah. Did you know they've been supporting liberals this whole time?
Yeah.
Now look, the one way that she is sort of right is that Planned Parenthood there is like a lot of traditionally Democratic or traditionally liberal groups. They're probably going too easy on that side. Like, yes, the Democratic candidates are not trying to repeal Roe v. Wade. They're not trying to repeal the Affordable Care Act. But they're not pushing for other policies that theoretically would be very good.
No, that's
like
not true.
Mandatory maternity leave, like for instance, perhaps single payer, which would be better.
I got it, but every single bit of progress that we've got regarding women in this country came from only one party. Only one party. There are certain things that where if you were a Democrat, you still get to be proud about. That's one of them. Mm-hmm. Yes, we can always do, I suppose, a little more. But the fact is, you can't knock Barack Obama almost for anything there, except economic issues, which would obviously have a significant benefit. But I mean,
Lilly Ledbetter, that was the first thing that Barack Obama did, right?
That's the first thing. And Sonia Sotomayor, Elena Kagan.
Right.
I mean, he wins this. He wins.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't put him on the list, but I'm saying that theoretically there are things they could do. I'm not saying she's right. I'm saying that would be one way she could try to seem right.
Right. But if you're Planned Parenthood and you look at the layout of the 22 people, if there are 20 Republicans, or if there are 16 Republicans and 18 people running for president, 2 of them generally are going to get the A++ from Planned Parenthood, and those 2 people are Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders.
Yeah. I mean, saying that somehow Megyn Kelly, what's her name? Elizabeth Hasselbeck is right about this in a sense because the
Megyn Kelly's just real quick lawyer and was never on a reality show. Like Megyn Kelly probably deserves to be on television.
Yeah, definitely
talking about issues here.
Yeah. Well, I gotta watch what I say. And this is me watching what I say.
Republican presidential candidate.
Yes, this is careful. Watching what I say. Damn it, you interrupted me again, and I forgot what I was going to say.
For once, it wasn't me. What do you know?
Go ahead.
I'm gonna give you a few seconds. I'm gonna organize my paper slowly so that if it hits you, you can jump back in before we move on. Okay, we're gonna move on. An Iowa Republican is extremely worried about the threat posed by exposing our children to information about the LGBTQ population, that community. Information such as possibly what those letters actually stand for. Let's watch the interaction in this video.
There have been some situations where parents have did not fully understand what their children were partaking in.
Is there a particular conference that you're referencing or have heard
I think there was a conference here about a month ago where there was some obscene material that was presented to minor children, and not only were parents shocked at the material, but also administrators and teachers as well.
What was the name of that conference?
The Governor's Conference on LGBTQ Youth.
And what's that acronym short for?
Pardon me?
Does that acronym stand for something?
I believe it does, but I think it varies from one group to the next. I don't know do you have the acronym?
I do, and thank you for responding to my questions.
So I believe it probably does. Might just be random letters, but I believe it probably does.
Different groups have different interpretations, like normal people call it lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer. My group calls them all facts.
different groups.
Different groups.
Yeah. Well, and by the way, like, has anyone ever scored as well in a debate as like he didn't expect that he wouldn't know. He just wanted to make him say it. That's why he asked him to define it. He was like, you're not going to just fucking like say that this group sucks without actually saying who you're attacking. And then in the end, he didn't even know. How could you not know that?
Oh, I think he knew he didn't know it. I interpreted that differently.
Yeah, that's so. If he was a lawyer asking a question he knew the answer to, like that guy didn't.
Like he's heard.
You have it? Yes.
Like he's been peeing next to that guy, and he's like, I don't know what the hell it stands for. You know, losers, Greeks, blacks, probably. You know.
Yeah, that's the B.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's the B.
Gotta be. I mean, it's a group we're against.
Yeah.
Right? I know
Latinos, L. The G would be
Those queens, those queens.
Goops. B is blacks.
Clicks.
T is those Mexicans.
different definitions. I don't know. I've heard acronym. I don't really know what it means.
Those Mexicans.
That's pretty good. Yeah, and so I like a couple of things about this. I like, first of all, the idea that at the annual Iowa Governor's Conference on LGBTQ youth, there was obscene material. Not in Iowa, not at the governor's ball. There was probably very little information. They weren't dancing on tabletops in leather. There was nothing that obscene.
No, of course not. And I'm sure that, look, and he's probably right. I'm sure a couple of parents complained to him because they're terrified that somehow telling your kids about the fact that this is an organization that exists and their kids who feel that way is somehow going to cause their kids to go off and try it. It's the same sort of paranoid thing that Michelle Bachmann was teaching. And what they've said for years, not just her, but I mean, so many people have said for years that this is what will happen. Kids will teach children to be gay.
Yes.
And they will become gay in the classroom.
Yes. There are a lot of things happening in that classroom. Like the Republicans and conservatives will always tell you that teachers are lazy and horrible and they can't teach kids math and reading, but they are expert at liberal indoctrination.
Right, that's right. Yeah.
Experts. They're just because they're so busy turning kids gay and indoctrinating them into the liberal. They don't have time to teach reading, writing, and arithmetic.
Yeah. They can't make them like algebra, but man, they can stimulate this just desire for sodomy.
Yeah. And by the way, the reading, writing, and arithmetic, people often refer to them as the 3 R's. I think I know maybe your fucking education problem might start.
Yeah, right.
It's not a good sign.
Not a good sign. 3 R's? Reading, writing, writing?
I think we can.
Well, those letters, they mean different things to different groups.
Different groups.
I think we can be supportive of the LGBTQ community while still acknowledging how funny it is that they keep adding letters.
Yeah, the Q is funny.
The Q is funny.
It's been a while since they've added a letter.
No, but in my at least in my and Jimmy's lifetime, they've added three
letters.
It was the LG community.
Yes.
Right, and then it was the LGB. All right, okay. I'm like, oh, they got a T. We got to add the T. That's important. I got it. The T. And I'm still a little unclear on who meets the Q. But I
Q is the Q would be people who are not sure. They're questioning.
Oh, the questioning.
So that's can't stand for queer. Depends different groups.
Oh, because it might stand for queer, right?
It says according to the LGBTQ Community Welcoming Project, it stands for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer. Parentheses and or questioning individuals' identities.
So it really should be the LGBT2Q.
Or Q2.
Q2.
Yeah. Yeah, he's never gonna catch up now, man. Come on, keep on adding stuff.
No kidding.
What was this guy's name? Do you know?
Yeah, that is, so Chris Hall was the Democrat speaking with Greg Hertzell.
I got the LBGTQ 630 with posi traction. I don't know if you guys are going to get that, but I take it in the mountains. If I'm going to go skiing, that's great for up there. It's high altitude kind of a thing.
They never sold that car with posi traction.
I get that right.
You do?
Yeah, that's right. That's my cousin Lou.
Yeah. And the last thing I want to say about this, by the way, that if you are listening to Greg Hertzell and you understand that what he wants is for parents to be able to opt out of their kids being exposed to this information, you should also understand that they already can. So anytime they learn anything about sexuality in that state, they can already opt out. This is completely unnecessary. It's just about demonizing that community, regardless of which letter they identify with. But that is all the time we have in the first hour.
Are you here for the second hour, Johnny?
I'm not here for the second hour.
But I miss you.
So going to be awesome, though. Anna Kasparian is going to be joining you two. You're both staying, right? Yeah,
the two youths.
Ben
Two youths are staying.
Two youths.
And Anna Kasparian are going to be coming in just a few minutes. They've got a number of great stories, including a momentous vote going on in Ireland, actually, that people are flying back to Ireland to vote in. A lot of other great stories, including the scandal over the 19 kids and counting family. That should be fun as well. Tweet us at #TYT Live. Anna and the rest of the crew will read some when they come back. We'll see you in just a few.
the Young Turks. Anna, Jimmy, Ben with you. We're going to have an awesome hour, okay? We're going to talk about fun topics like molestation within a family. And later on in the hour, we're going to talk about robotic arms that are controlled by the mind. Really amazing stuff. But before we
Hold on. Didn't work.
Disaster.
I don't know. How do you know what I meant?
So before I came in and got mic'd up and everything, I was picking out on NatureBox. That's what happened. NatureBox happened.
What is NatureBox?
NatureBox is a line of healthy snacks that I'm now addicted to. I don't know if NatureBox wants me to tell you guys how addictive their snacks are, but they're delicious, and since they're low in calories and they're healthy, it's totally fine to be addicted to them.
What kind of stuff is in there? Like fruits and nuts and stuff?
Yeah, fruits and nuts. And also, they get rid of all the bad processed stuff that you get in snacks, like high fructose corn syrup and things. It's all natural ingredients, so you feel less bad about snacking because their snacks actually have some nutrients in them that are beneficial. So I love their cashews. They have a variety of cashews, like these honey roasted cashews, and then if I'm feeling spicy, I'll have the sriracha cashews. Delicious.
I like to take a handful of those, wrap them in bacon, then deep fry them. Those are good.
Do we have some out there still, or no? Are we?
No, that's the thing. They deliver it to the office, and within 10 minutes, they're gone because we work with animals.
Right.
Yeah, but they're delicious. Anyway, you guys can actually have NatureBox for free. There's a free trial that you get because you're a TYT listener. Go to naturebox.com/TYT for your free trial. You get to choose which snacks they deliver right to your door, and I highly recommend it.
I'm going to do that, I think.
You have to do it. It's so good.
Yeah.
Definitely get the
I
couch.
have trouble snacking. Snacking is my downfall.
Yeah.
Like normally when I'll snack, I'll have 2 or 3 chocolate candy bars and a pint of Ben and Jerry's.
Oh, Ben and Jerry's is so good.
They have the artisan ice cream now, which is hilarious, right? Because you're buying it as a big. Hey, look at the artisan. Really, the artisan? Artisan means handcrafted.
I know.
It's not just because you put a picture of some lady who's an artist in Detroit. That doesn't mean that it's
artisan.
She didn't hand make this.
I know.
This was made anyway.
It's made where the other ice cream's made.
It's made exactly the
right
same
next door. Yeah.
But it does taste good.
Right.
What happens in the artisan ice cream?
They have different flavors. Like I got the ginger artisan ice cream. It's so good. Ginger cookies inside with some kind of a creamy cream.
Yeah.
And then I also got the one that it's just basically fudge and ice cream, and they call it some artisan thing.
No, you know what's incredible? Ben and Jerry's has crafted like the best ice cream idea ever, where they have like a core of like chewy, gooey stuff that's surrounded by the ice cream. So you're like, you know what? I'm feeling like brownie. No, I'm also feeling like a little ice cream. So you get a little bit of everything.
And a little waffle cone.
Yeah.
Yeah, they put a little waffle cone in there. It's amazing the stuff they can put in there.
Yeah.
I also like to get they call it the vanilla, it's called the rum raisin. And the reason why I like that is because my wife doesn't like that. So she won't eat it, so I'll bring it home. So, she gets to keep
You're the worst.
She gets to keep her.
That's a genius idea. All right, we are not paid by Ben and Jerry's, by the way. We just really like their stuff. Anyway, let's move on to some of the stories. Let's start off with the sweet stuff and now to the salty stuff, I guess. Josh Duggar, one of the Duggars from the show 19 Kids and Counting, has been revealed to be a child molester back when he was 14 years old. Now, these are records from years and years ago, back in 2006. They were never revealed until now. Apparently, when the Duggars were supposed to appear on Oprah a few years ago, someone had written into them, it was an anonymous email indicating that Josh Duggar had done something shady in the past. And so, through a Freedom of Information Act request, members of the media were able to obtain these documents, and they actually found out that there was some shady history in the Duggars' past. Now, let me give you some information on that. According to a recently uncovered police report, Josh Duggar, one of the many stars of TLC's 19 Kids and Counting, allegedly molested 5 girls. 5! Some of whom were reportedly his sisters, starting in 2002. He was around 14 at the time. Per the report, Josh was accused of fondling the breasts and vaginas of his victims, mostly while the girls were sleeping, but sometimes when awake. Apparently, Josh's father, Jim Bob, was made aware of the incidents in March 2002, but he did not alert the police. In July 2002, Josh admitted to fondling a minor's breasts again, but his father still did not contact authorities. Apparently, he eventually went to some sort of rehabilitation program, although Josh's mother is on record saying that that never happened, so there's a little confusion there. But Josh allegedly went to a Christian program from March 2003 to July 2003. The Duggars claim Josh apologized to his victims and that they had forgiven him, and that several members of their church were aware of the situation and had been supportive of the family. I should also note, he's married, he has children.
Oh, does he have kids?
He does have kids.
That's
Does that make you feel good? He has 3 children, another on the way, and his wife Anna apparently knew about what he had done in the past 2 years prior to getting married to him. And it's incredible to see the way that this story is covered versus any other story involving molestation. With this story, since he's a nice white Christian guy, oh, well, he found God and the molestation is totally fine, his victims forgave him, and we should all move on. Never mind the fact that his family never went to the authorities. They eventually went to a cop who was later found with child pornography, okay, and sentenced to...
They went to the right cop.
Yeah, they went to him. But for a very long time, they brushed it under the rug. And now that this is a very public story, you have very high-profile individuals defending him and saying, oh, come on, he was just a young guy. He was curious. He's learned better. Let's forgive him. He's found Jesus.
So they say that, so sure they didn't turn in their kid to the cops, but they said that he went to counseling.
Mm-hmm.
And then later admitted that he didn't go to counseling. What he actually did was that he was sent to a family friend who was in the home remodeling business.
Yep.
So apparently they were trying to drywall away some of his perversion, which could work. They took him to, as you mentioned, to the home of an Arkansas state trooper named Jim Hutchins. He gave him a very stern talking to. I don't know, maybe he gave him some tips on how to do this without getting caught, because that same state trooper is now serving 56 years in prison for child pornography, as you mentioned. Yes.
Yeah.
Again, I know I can't really talk about this because I grew up Catholic. My parents were really Catholic, like they almost molested somebody. And but I don't go. I still go to church, but I don't molest. I'm a lazy Catholic. But they here it's amazing the way the people who I don't detest or have a problem with all religious people. I only have problems with religious people who aren't really living up to the spirit of their religion that they profess. The people that they either use religion for 2 reasons. One is a club to beat you with. They use the Bible as a club to beat. Or 2, they use it to hide behind their horrible behavior by saying, look, I made good with God. And that's what they're doing here.
Yeah.
Is they keep saying, hey, look, we struggled. This has brought us closer to God. That's what they say. This has brought our family closer to God. And we want to praise God for him bringing us through these difficult times. And I'm like, well, where the fuck was God when that guy was sticking his fingers up those little girls when they were sleeping? Where was God then? Maybe if he's really that good of a God, he could intervene a little earlier in the process instead of only now he's intervening to shield you from legitimate criticism.
What do these people have in common? Ted Cruz, Scott Walker, Jeb Bush, Mike Huckabee, Rand Paul, Reince Priebus, Joni Ernst. Is it Jody or Joni?
Joni.
Joni Ernst, Bobby Jindal, David Limbaugh, Rick Perry, Rick Santorum, Sarah Palin.
They're all douchebags?
Something else. They've all had their photos taken with
the child molester Duggar?
With little Duggar, is it Josh?
Josh Duggar.
With
he's
Josh
actually
Duggar.
the eldest.
Yeah, he's got his picture taken with all those people, and then puts it up on Twitter and always great to hang out with Bristol Palin and Sarah Palin, 2 great Americans. Reince Priebus is fighting for our rights.
Yeah, so he has resigned as the executive director of the Family Research Council. That's one of the reasons why he's been, rubbing shoulders with all these politicians. He was an executive with that terrible, terrible organization. He has now stepped down because of these recent revelations. But, I remember when I used to see photos like that before, I was like, why are these politicians so obsessed with this reality guy? Like, he's on a reality show. What's the big deal? But no. This is a guy who had a very high position in an organization that shuns members of the LGBT community because they're worried about them somehow harming society. You know what harms society? Molesting girls while they're asleep, or molesting people, period. Okay, that's a little more harmful. And it's incredible to me how they demonize entire groups of people when behind the scenes they're doing this kind of stuff. And look, it happened when he was 14. It happened over a decade ago. I'm not excusing him, don't get me wrong, right? I'm sure it's an uncomfortable thing for his family to have to deal with, but understand that when you are a public figure and you get this kind of spotlight on a regular basis and you use that spotlight to demonize people, you got to take a quick look at what's going on within. Because if you have a history of molesting people, you have no fucking room to talk.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, if his victims have forgiven him and he was a kid, a kid with, I'm now going to give his best case scenario, although he would never give this, a kid with two of the worst parents in the history of the world, right? Pretty bad parents, right? Parents eager to teach you how you're better and other people got problems, and parents eager to ostracize others who are different. But he was 14. He was a kid. If this is stopped, he was a kid, and that matters to me. It unquestionably it makes a difference to me. But still, then, how you would not have exactly what Anna was talking about. You don't have that moment of realization that, wow, man, people go through hard times. I went through a hard time, and unless I'd had a family around me, or unless I'd had people at some point who got around to pointing me in the right direction, once Jim Bob did something about it, right?
He's got to pick one name.
I could be in. I could be in prison right now. I could be spending my life behind bars, being treated, as we're given to understand, as poorly as any prisoner can be treated. That type of offender in prison, and it gets to a point that, like, I was criticized. There was a piece I saw yesterday on the CBS morning show, which was on randomly because I turned the TV on for the dogs, and I've been watching Letterman the night before. But I got to see a piece, and I know, Jimmy, this speaks to you. But I got to see a piece about a radio station in Colorado that was now all weed all the time, and they were doing pretty well.
Play a lot of my stuff.
And they had switched to that format because the program, despite the fact that the program director or the owner of the station was a self-described serious conservative Republican. And in the interview, he goes, "Hey, 2 years ago, if you'd asked me if I'd been supportive of weed legalization, I'd have said, absolutely no way, scourge of society, drugs, kids, whatever." Well, then his kid got sick, and his kid needed chemotherapy.
Oh.
And the kid was violently ill with the chemo, and what do you know? The synthetic weed stopped it, he said, within 12 hours.
Yeah.
His kid instantly felt, great story, wonderful, oh, thank God the kid got it. So now this guy's a convert.
Classic Republican can't understand a problem until it personally affects him.
That's what I do understand. And Josh Duggar doesn't even get it once it does happen to him. Like, I mean, it's bad enough. Like that. Who is the representative? Rob Portman. I couldn't think of him yesterday. Rob Portman, who was like, and it's great that when your kid turns out to be gay, that you think, maybe we should stop demonizing gays. Yeah. Right? Maybe I shouldn't be against gay marriage. But to me, like, did it not occur to you for 1 second that there might be somebody else who's gay? Did it not occur to you that somewhere there is some family that's benefiting from medical marijuana because their kid is sick? Or the 100 dozen reasons why it might be valuable? No, only when it happens to you. But Josh Duggar, it doesn't even happen to him when it happens to him. That's how completely separated from reality is. I'm willing to forgive him. He was a kid, and it's terrible. And now his foibles as a child are out there in the world for him to be mortified by. And I honestly hope that us talking about it and the way the rest of the world is talking about it, I hope he gets through it. I do, because I don't want anybody to have to suffer through this. But and his victims, which are now mostly his victims who are now being reminded of it. But to still preach this kind of vitriolic hate and not understand that you are the luckiest son of a bitch in the world is galling and disappointing.
Absolutely. You make the point, Ben, that he was a kid, and it's easier for you to excuse that, which it should be.
Not excuse it.
But, forgive, not excuse it. But he never went to therapy. The therapy they said he went to, he didn't go to. They lied about that. Then he went and talked to another pedophile. That was his therapy. And
I think he built a deck. I think it's okay.
Yeah. And if anybody knows that, once you're a pedophile, once you're a molester, that goes away. And so I'm sure it's all gone. I'm sure he doesn't have any problems whatsoever. And one more thing is what these people are doing is exactly just another way of saying what you just said, is that they're focusing on the speck in everyone else's eye while ignoring the beam in their own eye, right? So they're going against their own their own Bible, they're going against their own spirituality and their own professed publicly religion. They're going against it because Jesus tells you, quit pointing your finger at other people and fix up your own house.
Yes.
And that's not what they're doing. Their own house, they got molesters. Their best friend was in jail for 55 years for being child porn. They're all corrupt. And the people who are overly religious, that's why I'm always extra suspicious of them. There's something wrong with you if you need to wear your religion on your sleeve. And that goes for everybody, including the Pope. If you need to be that extrovert or outwardly religious, I don't know what's wrong with you. There's something wrong with you. And so I'm always suspicious of. So religion, just like Jesus said, the hypocrites are the ones on the corner speaking about religion. If you want to pray to me, go at home, go in your closet. That's where God is. So anybody who's publicly religious, just dismiss them. That's what I do.
So despite the lack of evidence indicating that he got some professional treatment for the molestation that occurred when he was 14, people are very quick to jump in Josh Duggar's defense. One of those people is Mike Huckabee, who was actually endorsed by the Duggar family. Now, Huckabee is planning on running for the Republican ticket, and the Duggars have already openly supported him. So, of course, Huckabee needed to release a statement in support of Josh Duggar, and he did so on his Facebook page. Now, I want to give you a little taste of what Huckabee had to say. This is graphic number 8. Josh's actions when he was an underage teen are, as he described them himself, inexcusable, but that doesn't mean unforgivable. He and his family dealt with it and were honest and open about it with the victims and the authorities. So let's stop right there. There's more, but let's stop right there. They weren't honest to the victims and the authorities. They did not go to the authorities. They did not really deal with it. Okay, dealing with it would mean that you go to the authorities. I mean, look, here's the thing. Parents aren't going to want to go to the cops and tell the cops, hey, my 14-year-old son has been molesting my daughters. Okay, I understand that. But here's the thing. Sending your son to a police official who's been arrested for child pornography and sentenced to 50 plus years because of that child pornography is not dealing with the situation. Nowhere close to it.
Yes. So he hadn't been arrested at the time, obviously, right?
No, he hadn't been arrested at the time. But
imagine when he did get arrested, they would have been like, wow, what are the odds?
Yeah. Unbelievable. It's taking them to to the way they handled it. It's like, oh, my kid got caught for drunk driving. I'm going to take you over to meet the Hell's Angels. We're going to have a little conference with them. They're going to straighten you up. What the? That is, again, and Mike, go ahead.
He says, good people make mistakes and do regrettable and even disgusting things. The reason that the law protects disclosure of many actions on the part of a minor is that the society has traditionally understood something that today's bloodthirsty media does not understand, that being a minor means that one's judgment is not mature. So let's stop right there. I mean, just think about the number of times Huckabee has implied that certain minorities, whether they're of age or underage, are just worthless members of society. They're just thugs. They're just criminals. There's no way of changing them. I mean, I would respect a little bit of what Huckabee has to say if he extended that same type of forgiveness toward all groups of people, but he doesn't do that. He only does that to someone who has endorsed his stupid presidential, campaign, or someone who fits the very specific model of what he considers an American to be. Someone who is white, someone who is Christian, and someone who turns to God the second that they've done something wrong and they want society to think that they're good people.
But you can tell that Mike Huckabee is sincere in his faith because he spends most of his time as a fame whore. Mm-hmm. Right? He's on television, he's running for president. Nothing to do with religion, nothing to do with him being a reverend. And he's also a glutton because he can't keep his weight down. So that's a sin.
Damn, Jimmy, you're just those low blows. But I like it.
That's what he would do.
It's true.
That's what because he points the finger at other people in just that same way. So I'm going to do it to him. It's like, okay, so you get to judge people's morality. I'll judge your morality. You've been overweight your whole life and struggling with it. What is your problem? Doesn't God want to help you kick this glutton? You can't stop sticking stuff in your mouth. I wonder what else you're sticking in your mouth. Probably, if you're anti-gay, he's probably a closeted homosexual. Mike Huckabee is one of the most despicable people in public life today. And what makes him most despicable is that he uses that shield of spirituality, religion, and God to hide behind all his nefarious and diabolical stuff that he's doing, which it is. I've watched his show a lot. He's not above race baiting. He's not. So, and right there,
He does it. He does it with a nice, smiling veneer.
Yeah, and he tries. He always has this backward. He tried. I mean, you saw that speech he gave a few months ago. Everybody ridiculed him for it because he was trying to say how Republicans are actually pro-women and Democrats are the ones who are against women.
Totally.
And women, why do they need birth control? Because they're such. Democrats think that women are sex maniacs and they need this birth control. No, that's not what we think. So anyway, he's that guy. So we know who he is.
I don't disagree with you guys in general. I mean, well, I disagree with some.
Yes.
I'll make my own point.
Yes.
There are the hypocrite argument for Mike Huckabee, where all these guys who seek to glorify themselves while demonizing others are bad. You know, they bring shame to this country and they bring shame to what the Republican Party used to be. That said, one of the few things I like about Mike Huckabee came today for standing by the family, for not doing a political move of instantly retreating from a toxic situation. These people, I suppose, are probably real friends of his. I get it. I buy the full hypocrisy argument. I didn't like Mike Huckabee when this day started, before I knew the story. I don't like him now. Nothing changes. But, in general, they're going to be like, oh, I just took a picture. I don't know, man. I don't pick the people you expect. I don't pick the people who are on the I Like Mike page for giving a certain money. I mean, we take money from people. But instead, he said, I know this family, I like this family, and I stand by them. And I think that took some little modicum of political courage.
I'll disagree. I'll tell you why.
Okay.
I think that.
Don't tell me why. Just disagree.
I just disagree, Anna. Because believe me, he's a calculating politician, and he's doing this because he thinks it would help him. He's not doing this because he has integrity and he thinks that it will hurt him, but he's still going to stand up for what's right. Because if he was going to stand up for what's right, he wouldn't be doing this. So I think he thinks it plays to the base, which it does. So it's just like I'm sure he sees it as standing up for people. Well, they're already beloved. They have a popular television show, and Christians are famous for cognitive dissonance. So they'll just wipe that from their brain and keep watching this show, because they'll say he's good, he's right with God. Right. That's what Mike Huckabee's doing now.
That's exactly what he's doing.
They're saying they're right. He's forgiven. He made himself right with God, so we can accept him. That's what's going to happen. That's what he's doing here. He's still appealing to his base, Mike Huckabee. I don't think he's making a principled defense of these people at all.
So we gotta.
But real quick, Mike Huckabee's son apparently.
Yes, killed a dog.
Caught a stray dog.
Yeah.
Hung it, slit its throat.
Yeah, Mike Huckabee.
Sounds like a good Christian boy.
Sounds like a good parent. There's no repression happening at his house, is there? Sounds like a normal kid.
All right.
So molesting and killing animals when you're a kid, those two things go away.
Yeah. As long as you find Jesus.
Yeah.
The last point that I want to bring up very quickly is the fact that, the National Review, which is a right-wing publication, tore Lena Dunham apart after she published her book, and there was a section in the book where she talked about how when she was 7 years old, 7 years old, when you have no freaking idea what sexuality is, okay, you have no perception of it. Her sister is younger than her. Apparently they were playing, and she noticed her sister's vagina, and she, touched it and looked at it, right? That comes from a place of curiosity. I mean, look.
Innocence.
That's not someone who's a teenager who understands what sex is putting his fingers in a girl's vagina while she's sleeping. It's very different. But anyway, National Review tore Lena Dunham apart, just ripped her to shreds, right? Have I seen a single article from the National Review on the Duggar story? Not one. Maybe they published something since the last time I checked. I checked an hour ago. Did not see anything. If anyone finds a National Review article on this Duggar thing, please send it to me. I'd love to read it.
So they're having a double standard over at the National Review?
Weird.
You mean the intellectually bankrupt National Review? The contradictory, hypocritical?
Yeah.
Rich Lowry, that's their big thinker. Rich Lowry is their big thinker. Am I wrong? He's with the National Review, correct?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, he's their big thinker. And he gets to go on George Snuffleupagus' show because we have to have the other side of the argument. Yeah. We need to hear the wrong side of the argument. So let's bring on...
The only way to tell the story fairly is to get the wrong side.
You got to get the wrong side, and that's why we bring on Rich Lowry to put lipstick on a pig.
Right. By the way, Brotosynthesis writes, Huckabee would stand up for what's right, but not for long. He'll get winded.
All right, guys. You know what? We're going to take a quick break because this next story is a positive story, so I want to switch it up a little bit. Come back. We're going to read your TYT Lives. We'll see you soon. Hey guys, welcome back to the Young Turks. A few TYT lives for you. Rayford Madness says there's a big difference between consensual curiosity and molestation. This was clearly the latter, referring to Josh Duggar, obviously. Annette says him being 14 would matter if he got any kind of punishment, real rehabilitation. He's an adult now with children. Nope, no.
That is something that he's got kids. You know he's... I don't know.
Well, we don't know.
I know those kids are in danger. How about that?
Brian Newton says, unless by young guy they mean under 7 years old, that fucker knew better, which is true. I mean,
yeah, no doubt.
At 14, you know. There's no question about that.
No, I don't watch a lot of reality TV, Anna. Now, are there any shows that aren't about bigoted scumbag hypocrites? You got the Duck Dynasty. You got.
I'd say if you want like lowbrow reality TV, the Real Housewives shows, they're pretty accepting of the gay community, which I like.
Okay.
Yeah. I used to that used to be the guilty pleasure that I had. I used to watch that, and then I'm a cord cutter. I don't have cable anymore, so I never watch reality TV anymore.
Wow, good for you.
Yeah.
I admire you. I wish I could cut that goddamn cord. I hate Charter so much.
You're not gonna miss it. There's so much content. Like $7.99 Netflix. There's so much content. If you watch Netflix for 3 hours every single day for the rest of your life, you still wouldn't get through all the content.
Yeah, but like you can watch it on your you have a big screen TV.
Yes.
You don't just watch it.
Yeah,
that's critical.
That is critical.
Yeah,
we're not there yet, because the connection is not consistently good enough yet. It just isn't.
Well, here's my
it still does.
No, I don't have any of that.
Here's my quick problem with that. So now I'm watching Lawrence O'Donnell the other night, and he had a segment on, and I wanted to capture it, right? And I have a device on my TV that goes right into my computer, and I can capture the video, right? So I have a device, I forget what it's called. So I didn't get it fast enough, so the TiVo went fast. So anyway, long story, I tried to find that
clip. It's a good story so far.
I tried to find, here comes the good part.
Okay, all right.
I tried to find that clip online. MSNBC makes it so hard to find the fucking clips from their shows.
Yeah.
And then so finally, if I wanted to watch the shows from yesterday on MSNBC, I had to get my charter, because I have charters. I have to enter my code word and my passcode and set up and I'm like, God damn it, this is a pain in the ass. So that's why I still have a TV, so I can go right from the TV into my computer.
Okay.
And I don't have to bother with
it. You think MSNBC, you think maybe they know?
That it's
that's
hard?
Why they make it hard? No, they know
that I want to make fun of it?
Yeah, that's right. They know it's horrible.
That's it. They know
like,
shows
they're like, no, yeah, we put that show.
Hide it.
Put it up, but hide it.
They couldn't be dumber. They couldn't be dumber about how they deliver let their content be seen.
Yeah.
MSNBC. They make it so hard.
Just to look, I don't know why I feel like being fair to them, but I remember when we were working for Current, part of the reason why you can never find the content online is because the television network will have some sort of agreement with a cable company indicating that you won't put the stuff up online. So people will be forced to watch it when it's live.
Oh, that's the key to MSNBC's rating success.
Yes.
Keep people from finding the content online, and then all of a sudden it's going to be like they're going to be competing with Fox all of a sudden.
It'll work. It'll totally work.
That's what they're thinking, is it?
I don't know if that's what the agreement is with MSNBC, but that was the agreement with Current, which is why you can't find any of the shows we did online for Current.
That's shit.
Yeah, I know. It was really good.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Emmy award-winning show. Okay, moving on. Ireland is... All right. The election is underway in Ireland, and it turns out that thousands of people that are living outside of Ireland are flying back to their home country in order to participate in these elections. Now, why are they doing this? Well, the hashtag #HomeToVote has been trending on social media because it turns out that Ireland has created a voting or a possibility to vote on a referendum that would legalize same-sex marriage. Let me give you the details. Today, Ireland is voting in a referendum on whether to bring in marriage equality. If the referendum succeeds, Ireland would become the first country in the world to legalize same-sex marriage by popular vote. Now, understand that, of course, same-sex marriage is legal in other countries, but usually it's not an entire country that's legalized it. It's either separate states or certain municipalities. as is the case here in the United States. Not every single state has legalized same-sex marriage, even though it's a civil rights issue and the federal government should do something to legalize it. Nonetheless, this is big news for Ireland, and we should know what the results are for this election very soon.
What I love in Ireland, one of the things is they'll, like the polls have closed, it's a referendum, turnout much higher than in recent referendums, maybe as much as 60% in some areas, which is again high for, they're not having an election, it's just this referendum. Come on, man. Start the sentence over. Ireland, oh yeah. So okay, here we go. And scene. So Ireland has this vote. Turnout is high, over 60% in some big Dublin, Limerick, which is just funny that that's a place. Waterford passed the 60% electorate turnout mark, over 50 in a bunch of other places. And so the polls have closed, and they'll get around to starting to count tomorrow. They're like, okay, the polls closed, seal the boxes, go home. See you guys in the morning.
I kind of like how they're
totally.
Like, relax. Everyone relax.
They're going to be here tomorrow. Like,
Yeah.
we don't need to know. They don't need to know everything right now.
Yeah. I know, it's crazy. I love how I said that they're having an election. Yes, a referendum. Sorry about that.
That's right.
I went to, that was in Dublin, Limerick?
That was in Limerick, Dublin, Limerick, and Waterford.
Oh, really? Because I was, all right. Well, I heard about that when I was in Tokyo Haiku. Ooh, I was really working hard on that one. I've been trying to get that joke for a while.
A for effort.
Thank you.
So, I want to know what you think about I could be wrong, but you're of Irish descent,
I'm Irish,
right?
sure,
So what do you think about this? Because Ireland has come a very, very long way when it comes to being a little more tolerant of groups that don't agree with Catholic religion.
I think it was the Catholic pedophilia scandal that actually maybe got them turned around a little bit. Because it got to the point where even in their parliament or whatever they call their judicial, I'm not up on it, but there was a famous speech recently. It was like in 2010 or 2011. The guy stood up and he talked about all the pedophilia happening right then. And he just talked, I mean, it was crazy. He goes, this isn't from 10 years ago. This is happening right now still. So I think it was, and then I think there was also the bishop who spent all that money on his own bill. So people got a good look at the Catholic Church. I think that's what happened, is that once you start to, they're still Catholic. More people go to church in Ireland than any of the other European countries. They're still very religious, but I think it's losing its grip, and I think that's why you see this.
You know what's also really incredible? The people who no longer live in Ireland are flying back to Ireland in order to vote on this referendum, which is incredible. And a lot of them are saying, look, even though we don't live there now, there will be a point where we're going to want to go back. And we want a better Ireland for our families. And that means being more tolerant of, the LGBT community. So to know that people are willing to spend, in some cases, thousands of dollars to travel back just for this particular issue makes me feel really good. It makes me, gain a little more faith in humanity.
Here's the bad news. We can take this shot here. Here, I'll hold it up. Sorry. That's a photo of, there we go. That's a photo of a nun voting today. So, and she's a nun using a walker. So I'm just saying gay marriage right now, behind 1-0. But,
you never know.
Counting, you never know.
You never know.
Guessing a nun in a walker, probably not a yay vote.
Not a yay.
I know nuns on a bus are very progressive. I know that. Nuns on a bus.
By the way, one of the best documentaries I've ever seen is called The Magdalene Sisters. Have you guys heard of it? It's about these 3 girls who were sent to one of these religious camps in Ireland because of ridiculous reasons. One of them was sexually assaulted by her male cousin, and the family blamed her for it. So they sent her to this weird, it's almost like a boarding school, religious boarding school. And it's based on a true story. And it actually ends by giving you an update on what happened to these women. And it just kind of shows you how vicious Catholic religion was in Ireland specifically. It's crazy to see.
Well, Philomena, I saw that movie Philomena, right? Where was that set?
That was set in, I think
Ireland, right? So that talked about the same kind of brutality. So I grew up Catholic, 12 years of Catholic school, and they were brutal, right? It was a bunch of, it seemed like a bunch of sadistic people with borderline personalities who wanted to be around kids so they could hit them. And I'm not making that up, right? Because even the lay teachers in our Catholic schools would say, we don't make as much money as the public school teachers. We teach here because we want the discipline we're allowed with you. Oh, here's someone willing to take a cut in pay so they can hit me. Sounds normal.
Yeah.
Sounds normal. Hey, we can't pay you as much as the public schools, but you do get to beat the shit out of them. Oh, sign me up. Thank you very much.
I'll take a summer job.
Yeah, yeah. Don't worry. I'll teach driver's ed. So that's what's wrong. So yeah, I got a good look at. That's why I'm so anti-religion, because I was brought up in it. Right. My uncle was a priest, and my other uncle was going to be a priest, but he had to drop out of the seminary because someone's girlfriend got pregnant in the summer, but my grandmother still keeps the picture of him up in his thing at the seminary. That's the picture till the day she died. You'd walk in her house. There's a picture of him at failure. You're a failure. You didn't become a priest.
Jesus, what a poor guy.
Yeah, poor guy.
I mean, it's you got a girl. Probably did the right thing.
Yeah.
What was the other movie you told me to watch? You told me to watch a Netflix movie yesterday.
Did you watch Netflix? On Golden Blonde? Have you watched that? That's a different kind of a. I'm sorry.
You guys have to check out Southern Rights on HBO Go.
Southern Rights.
Or HBO. It's amazing.
Southern Rights.
Such a good documentary. You guys have to see it. All right, moving on. Back in April, Kansas signed a bill into law that would place very serious restrictions on welfare recipients. They wanted to ensure that those welfare recipients high off the hog are not going to lavish places and spending government money when they don't deserve it. Okay, so this is a tax on the poor, and it is absolutely ridiculous. The Washington Post has been writing about this, and I think that they've been doing a really good job. So let me give you an example about what this law does and why it's leading to a great deal of criticism. The law was meant to limit extravagant or unnecessary spending of taxpayer resources, and the legislation also barred the use of welfare funds at recreational locations like movie theaters, cruise ships, and swimming pools. Okay. So one thing that it would do is it would force beneficiaries to make more frequent trips to the ATM to withdraw money from the debit cards used to pay public assistance benefits. Since there's a fee for every withdrawal, the limit means that some families will get substantially less money. So what is the limit? The limit was, or is, $25 a day. So if you are a welfare recipient in the state of Kansas and you go to an ATM machine, you can withdraw $25 at a time. Except you can't withdraw $25 at a time because ATM machines only give you bills of $20, and that's it. So you can withdraw $20 at a time, and on top of that, our taxpayer money is going toward ATM fees instead of toward the recipients that should have that money to feed their freaking families. Unbelievable.
Yeah, that is the ATM fees enough. Like people who are well off, we all have many of us who are, not super well off, but when you're doing okay and you want to go to the bank and take out $100, sometimes you see a $350 fee.
Yes.
You know what? I'll take out $300. It's still a $350 fee. I'm getting a better return on I'm getting $200 free. It's still my money. It's just not in the bank right now, right? Well, I mean, let's not pretend. And they're like, oh, but if you go to your own bank, there's no fee. What difference does it make? It's computerized. They're all sharing money. It doesn't make any difference. It causes no inconvenience for Wells Fargo if you go to a Chase Bank in any way, shape, or form. So they're just stealing from us. They are just stealing from us. And to add fees to people on welfare whose money is restricted, it's insane. First of all, poor people. You know what? Poor people should be exempt from fees.
Yeah,
we should all be exempt from fees. There's universal. Fox can decide that I'm doing the right thing, that I'm with everybody. Everyone should be exempt from fees, but particularly in this case, you can't restrict welfare. You can't restrict the amount of money people had. You can only restrict it based on the amount of money they have. You have $800 in the bank, whether you're getting welfare or not. If you want to take out $800, you can take out $800. It's your money,
exactly.
Right?
So I remember when I first moved to Los Angeles, and my roommate at the time, Jackie Flynn, his dad was from Boston, and he would always tell us, "Oh, you guys living out in California? You know what happened to California? All the screwballs moved out to California. They tilted it. They tilted the country, and all the screwballs ended up in California."
Oh, is that what happened?
That's what they would say. I think what happened somehow we must have tilted that pinball machine back over, and all the screwballs are in Kansas. Because the question of what's the problem with Kansas is Kansas. That's what's the problem. Is there anybody who's not mental from Kansas? Is there anybody who doesn't want to demonize the poor from Kansas? Because that's all this is. And Chris Hayes had one of these state senators on who was doing stuff like this, and the guy he couldn't stop smiling. He was one of these, well, we're just trying to just total. And then, so what this is the lowest thing you can do. This is shitting on people lower on the economic ladder. This is shitting on people who are already struggling. This is demonizing people with no money and no power. That's what, and you're pretending that the problems in Kansas, which they're closing down their schools now because they just gave tax breaks to corporations and millionaires, so they're closing down their schools, and now they want you to be pissed off at poor people, not the idiots who cut the taxes for the people who have all the money in the state. No. You're going to be mad at the people with no money and no power. My brother's like that. He watches too much cable news, meaning Fox, and he's angry at people on welfare. They did a survey, and that some research company, and they found out that people on welfare own stuff. And man, did that drive my brother crazy. I go to his house, he goes, Jimmy, that 50% of the people who on welfare consider themselves poor and they own a microwave? I go, holy shit. They have the ability to warm up a Hot Pocket, and they think they're poor. They're probably laughing at us over a cup of noodles right now, Anna. So this is what this is. This is demonizing the poor, and of course they won't when they report it. Scott Pelley reports it. Whoever, Lester Holt, they're not going to say, "Hey, Kansas demonizing the poor some more." Hey, scapegoating people not responsible for their state's problems. Hey, the most screwed up state in the nation right now, which is going to be bankrupt pretty soon because they don't want to tax the people with the money. Right now, they're screwing over that's not how they're going to say it. Yeah. They're gonna have a quote from somebody who's demonizing the poor, saying they aren't, and a quote from someone who's trying to stick up for them, and then they're going to go back to you. I guess, are they being shitty to the poor people? I guess we'll never know, but I'm neutral.
Which is why I'm really happy that the Washington Post is exposing what's really going on. And let's say any particular person doesn't really care about the poor people getting screwed over in this case. It's not just those who rely on welfare that are getting screwed over. It's the American taxpayer that's also getting screwed over. Because look at this number. It's amazing. Experts have suggested the welfare policy change could result in a $100 million cut in money Kansas receives from the federal government. And part of the reason why is because the money that's supposed to go to these recipients is no longer going to the recipients in its entirety. It's going to the banks in the form of these fees, right? So we're giving banks even more money thanks to this ridiculous policy that's been passed by.
Why don't we have government leaders who say if you're getting welfare recipients, they don't get any ATM fees? That's what any logical person would do. And then to turn around and tell people that you can only take out $25 at a time. Sometimes even poor people need $38 because they have to buy something. Suppose they have 4 kids and they got to go to Walmart. And they don't really have a credit card. They don't have... It's outrageous, and you're so right, Jimmy. They're just demonizing them, and they're looking in some part to fix these giant policy missteps that they've made, and they're trying to fix it because they found 1 or 2 or 8 stories of people misusing, in our words, benefits.
So they did do the. Somebody did an investigation of, are they really misusing the funds? Are the people getting their welfare in Kansas? Where are they spending? So the newspaper did an investigation. They found out less than 1% of withdrawals on these welfare debit cards were happening at places like casinos. Less than 1%. So I think that means there isn't a problem.
By the way, another thing that
Thank you for pointing that out.
that we should mention is if you really want to talk about government money that's being spent in the wrong places, I mean, there are these government-issued credit cards that go to military officials and people in the Defense Department. There was recently an audit of what these individuals are spending that money on. They are spending it on strip clubs, and they are spending it on casinos, and they are spending it on booze. And that kind of story, that kind of government waste doesn't get as much attention, right? But a story like this, where you are demonizing poor people because you think that they're like living this lavish lifestyle on like $27 a week for food stamps, that'll blow up. Right? And it's just a perfect example of the Hunger Games scenario that we're dealing with. people in the working class and the middle class are just attacking each other instead of attacking the system that's fucking us all over.
They don't, I'm not I haven't had some blessed life that I got to do this, but in being a television reporter, one of the few things I'm kidding.
You're pretty close to a blessed life.
I'm a Mekowitz. Just kidding. It's been easy. No, I was a television reporter, and you know what that enabled me to do? Meet people that I wouldn't otherwise meet. And and I make fun of TV news all the time, but we did attempt in Charleston, South Carolina, to cover our viewers. And our viewers, many of our viewers were black, and almost all of them were poor, right? All of our viewers poor, many of those poor people were black. So we didn't shy away from going into those communities and doing stories. And the result was, I don't think I needed this because I think I was raised right, but here's what people do with food stamps and government assistance. Get assistance for the necessities of life. And sometimes if they felt comfortable enough, that might at some point include cable TV, because everybody needs cable TV. Or certainly they did in the 90s, right? But of course, there were people who wanted to do a story. How could you get cable TV when you're on government assistance? And I would think, how do we have the right to tell people what to spend their money on? But overwhelmingly, what these people did was buy food and clothes for their children. That is almost exclusively what these people did. And like everyone else who has to live on a budget, if they went out to dinner, they were very careful about it, and they went to Denny's, right? Of course they do. And so finding the 3 or 4 cases that outrage you is what Barack Obama was talking about when he did that wonderful symposium at Georgetown, where he talked about the poor, where the President of the United States showed up somewhere and engaged in a meaningful 80-minute conversation about the poor and the working poor. And during that time, he goes, and then Fox, he says, finds these little stories here and there, 2 or 3 examples. And he goes, and even I get mad at it. Of course, anybody would get mad at him. And Fox uses that to manipulate the story. And of course, all Fox covered was not the discussion of the poor. All Fox covered was, the president called us out. Is that appropriate? You can't punish, and you know this from comedy. The butt of a joke can't be the weakest people in the room. You make fun of strength, you make fun of power.
That's bullying. When
that's bullying.
You make fun of someone lower than you, that's bullying, and you're making someone more powerful than you, that's satire.
That's right. And so you don't fix your state's problems by taking the weakest people in your state, the most powerless people in your state, and then crushing them just a little bit more so you can feel tougher, so you can feel like you're doing the right thing.
It is a very convenient distraction from what the real issues are, though, right? It's a good distraction from the fact that the wealthy aren't paying their fair share of taxes. It's a good distraction from government corruption. Focus on the little guy, the powerless, attack them. They're the reason why your life is shitty, right?
Yes, that'd be great. Like, why don't we just, how great would it be if all of a sudden one party, I don't know which party it would be, let's think. If one party just said, here's what we're going to do. We're going to continue to not send any of you bankers to jail. And, we'll keep Dodd-Frank, and you guys have figured out a way kind of around that, and you can still engage in your derivatives trading. But we're going to take every dollar that you got in ATM fees over the last 5 years.
Yeah.
We're going to take all of it. We're going to take all of it, and we're going to invest in infrastructure and education, and we're going to take all that money and sort of funnel it down. Not give it to the poorest people, but we're going to use that for things that will help them.
Yeah.
And make the country sort of stronger. We're going to maybe enhance the rail system, maybe make sure those trains don't go off the rails. We're going to build some schools. Because how much money would that be? 10 years. 10 years. You know what the banks will be? Fine. They'll be fine. They'll be fine. It'll may take them a year or 2 to get back up to speed. It would be so great. And as a result, we're not really going to regulate you for a little bit more. Then you're going to get to continue to do business as usual. But I'm going to need all that money. All of it. It's so great.
Can I make one more? I know we're talking about this for a long time, but can I make one more point? So Chris Hayes of MSNBC, when he had on this state senator from Kansas, he was trying to expose that it was ridiculous that this guy was demonizing the poor. Except he didn't do it in the way I would do it. In fact, the way he ended the interview was kind of giggling and smiling, just like that guy was smiling. And he says, hey, thanks for coming on. I appreciate you being a good sport. If your sports is making life worse for poor people, then that guy's a fucking Olympian. But what that guy is doing, what he should have ended that interview by saying is, what you're doing is shameful, and your parents did a horrible job with you, and you should go home and slap your mother because she really dropped the ball with you. Thanks for coming on.
We'll be right back after these words.
That's how he should have ended that interview. But instead he giggles and goes, thanks for being a good sport. If his sport is demonizing poor people and shitting on those lesser than him, then that guy is a professional athlete.
All right, guys. I think it's best to leave the show right there.
Okay.
All right, guys. Thank you for watching. Thank you to Jimmy and Ben for an awesome
Can I tell
show.
people June 13th?
Please
It's a
do.
Saturday night. I'll be at the Improv right here in Los Angeles on Melrose. There's a discount ticket link over at jimmydorecomedy.com. 8 p.m. show, June 13th.
Very nice. All right, guys. We're having a long weekend. We're going to take Memorial Day off, so I hope you guys have a good time. We'll see you on Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.